came from a generation where Sachin destroyed our lives literally. Till my father's generation did not suffer because everybody got success at 40 years of age. Vikram Sathaye became successful at 42. Gandhiji came from South Africa at 42. But every time I did something nice in my school exam, my mother used to say, "Look at Sachin's success." So at 16, we got completely demoralized. And I remember scoring 74 in the under 15 game. The same day, Sachin scored 326 in a Harris Shield game. My dad didn't even congratulate me. But there was a moment in my life where actually the guy who destroyed my life became somebody who opened the doors of cricket for me. And that's what I've tried to cover in the book. Because that was the moment I was working in MTV and suddenly I did an imitation of Tony Greig praising Sachin Tendulkar, and my theory at that time was anybody who praised Tendulkar would get a good salary in India. So Sachin kind of made Tony Greig also successful in India. And Sachin came into bat, "Oh, what a ply, wonderful cricketer boy. All those people are watching the telecast live, will be dancing in their lounges because Sachin Tendulkar is the greatest batsman in the world. It's a wonderful shot since again." Sachin had just opened the face of the bat. So you knew that the hype was created around this great man called Sachin Tendulkar. Tony Greig was the master of hype. Sachin was always the modest guy. So Tony would just go ballistic by saying, "Oh, Sachin Tendulkar, the ply comfort level is of vital importance. These one-day matches, you think played some quality cricket out there." And then Sachin would go, "Most definitely, I thought the wicket was great. At the end of the day, what matters is that we played better cricket than them." And I remember doing this imitation, and all the people in the office said, "You should do this for a living." Cut to, I am in 2003 in the World Cup, and the producer, Gary, said that we've got you to South Africa because you can imitate Tony Greig. And so we're going to take you directly to Tony Greig's cabin, and I am standing next to Tony Greig, 6 feet 8.5 inches, and the producer tells me, "Imitate Tony Greig in front of Tony Greig. If you pass, you're good. Otherwise, we send you back to India." And I'm like, and then he says in his voice, "Boy, I've heard you've done a cry, Tony Greig. Why did you start?" And then I just went ballistic. I just went, "Boy, this Tony Greig is standing in the oils of Sharjah. Boy, what a man." And then I made a whole monologue on how Tony Greig would describe Tony Greig. That he loved so much, and I did an episode with him immediately the next day. Sehwag was batting and Wasim Akram told Inzi, why don't you go to deep? तू पीछे चले जा, सहवाग ऊपर से मारता है तो तू पीछे चले जा. तो इंजी टोल्ड वसीम अकरम, "मैं नहीं जाऊंगा, मुझे नहीं जाना." मैंने बोला, "कप्तान मैं हूँ, सहवाग ऊपर से मारता है, तू पीछे चले जा." "नहीं, मैं नहीं जाऊंगा." तो ये, "क्यों नहीं जाएगा?" तो बोले, "पीछे जाता हूँ तो लोग आलू आलू चिल्लाते हैं." And one of the greatest lessons I learned was from Ponting, which I'll describe in 20 seconds. I asked Ricky Ponting, as an under 15 cricketer, I never got the concept of placing the ball. So how does one place the ball? He said something extremely interesting. He said that when you come into bat, you plant the fielders in the subconscious of your brain. So that helps you actually hit the ball properly. But he says a good batsman actually implants the gaps in his brain rather than the fielders, because there was a time that he was hitting to the fielders directly, but when he started implanting the gaps, he realized that he was actually finding the gaps. So while I was doing this humor across the world with these cricketers, learning funny stories, I imitated around 170 cricketers, and the best compliment I've got is G.R. Vishwanath coming to me and said that your imitation of me is very good, but you never do it all the time. I want you to do it in every show. And one of my favorite chapters is Sehwag, because Sehwag says that the problem with Indian cricketers in my times was they used to analyze too much. And I told Lakshman and Dravid, आप अजंता मेंडिस की वीडियो मत देखो, आप जितनी वीडियो देखोगे आपकी बैटिंग खराब होगी. So I asked him how come he only played Mendes well. So he said something which I think changed my life, because he said, भाई साहब, स्पिनर को स्पिनर बैट्समैन बनाता है. अगर आप बॉल को स्पिन ही ना करने दे तो वो स्पिनर कभी नहीं बनेगा. And that was corroborated by Ajit Tendulkar to me when he said that personally I believe he is the greatest spin ball player in the world, because his ability to pick the line and destroy the bowler has done more to Indian cricket and helped actually the Dravids and Tendulkars of the world. Ravi Shastri always wants to do this traction and, he has this style of complicating people's mind by asking them technical questions, which doesn't work with Virender Sehwag. So Ravi went, Sehwag, the ball was coming onto the bat, not much grass on it. Whatever little grass is basically dead grass rolled on to keep the wicket together. How did you gauge that bounce? It was a tricky track. How did you go into that game? What was your preparation? What was Sehwag's answer? ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, बॉल बल्ले पे आ रही थी, मैंने मार दी बस. Sehwag not moving his feet has done more for Indian cricket than people moving their entire bodies.